Christian ministry requires thoughtful and faithful planning. Recently, the specialized ministries of the Presbyterian Church in Canada gathered at Crieff Hills Community in Ontario to explore planning. The clips in this video offer glimpses into this conference and the learning that happened there. The accompanying printed workshops focus on three areas: visioning and strategic planning, governance, fundraising, and planned giving. Together with groups in your church or in a church-related ministry in your community, we invite you to explore ways to enhance the Christian ministry you care about.
We're going to talk about strategic planning, which is related to visioning. And it's kind of chicken-egg thing. What comes first, a vision or a plan? Well, yes. So my idea of a strategic plan is something that ultimately helps us to refine our vision. Even if we're not clear what the vision is, through doing the stages of a plan, we discover who we are and can therefore, if we don't have a vision to start with, can back ourselves into this is what God has given us. This helps us to refine a vision and move forward. I understand a strategic plan to be something that is annually updated. It is brief. It is not a massive document. It is something that is very approachable and hands-on. It is something that is easy to read and easy to interpret. It is concrete. It is simple. It is easily implemented. It is measurable. I have in my hand 3 copies of a strategic plan, 3 separate strategic plans. You see how heavy those are? Pages? Okay. So a 3-year plan is a fairly industrious effort. You can have a 10 and 20-year plan, but you know that 1 year, 2 year out, it's going to change. That's okay. You create the plan doesn't create you. It's not once you've created a plan you say, well, we can't deviate. We created a plan, that's it, we're done. No, a plan is a reflection of where you believe God is calling you to go and to be, and circumstances are such and changing all the while that flexibility is a remarkable gift in us that needs to be built upon when it comes to living with a plan. Because a plan, if it is helpful strategically, it is a living thing. It is a shifting, moving, flexible thing.
The buck stops someplace, and that's where you need very clear structure in your organization. And if people around know that the structure is not there to make good decisions, they're not going to give you money. Or they're not going to serve on your board. All those kinds of things that you're really looking for. So it's an issue of, governance is an issue of trust as well, okay? Whether you're a minister, executive director, CEO, or whatever, the title is really not the issue. It's what you do, okay? We all put them up on a board, okay? And she will go around and say, you're doing that person's job. You're doing that person's job, okay? In other words, there was a question of governance here, that we were supposedly collegial, but we were walking over other people's territory. The job descriptions weren't clear, okay? After she left, I said to her, can I take you out for lunch? So we went out for lunch a couple days later, and I brought my position description along with me, and I said to her, take a look at that, what do you think? Looked at it and she said, well, not bad, but after I worked at my key accountabilities, I had them all in, she says, not bad, but I don't see anything here about being executive director. And I kind of looked at her and, uh-oh. So she said to me, you know, there's one thing that an executive director, the most important thing an executive director does is, what do you think she said to me? Pardon? Huh? Okay. She said to me, the first thing that an executive director does is creates the climate in which everybody else can work to their best of their ability. You create the climate in which everyone else can work to the best of their ability. And I've never, ever forgotten that. So that does not mean you're an autocrat. What are some things that would mean?
You know, as I reflect on my own life, I am truly happiest when I'm able to give of myself. Would that be true for you? I was having a conversation with Kathy Ball one time after a conference I'd attended out west. And I don't know how we got on this, but we were talking about the meaning of life. Fairly big question. And I came out with something that afterwards I thought was fairly wise. That we only discover the meaning of life as we give ourselves away. And I think that's fundamentally true. So much of what we accumulate will finally be taken from us. Ultimately, everything will be taken from us. We cannot find true meaning by what we have, but by what we're able to give away. That's a fundamental truth, and I think we forget that. And so if that's the case, then why are we hesitant to ask people to give generously? It's part of our growth in Jesus Christ as we grow in God.
And in 2 Corinthians, he wrote 2 chapters. We note them as 8 and 9. 8 all about generous giving, and 9 all about the money for God's people. When I was learning how to be a minister and taking lots of Greek, I happened to be assigned these 2 chapters by Raymond Humphreys at Knox College. And I didn't realize at the time, and perhaps he didn't, although I kind of think he did, that these would become significant in my little journey through life. Because money matters in the life of any ministry, be it specialized, as we call all of you, what a great name, congregational or whatever. It really matters, and Paul knew that. I remember as a young boy being told that 70% of the world's problems were solved and caused by money. Some days I think that might be just a little bit higher than 70%. But nonetheless, money matters in the life of the church, and Paul knew that. And so I encourage you in devotions that lie ahead as you ponder those letters that he wrote to sense afresh how much money, possessions given and received, shared and taken, matter.
So what we find is before God told Moses what the offering was for, he told Moses to take up an offering. And he wanted Israel to be motivated by a willing heart more than the specific need. And for us, that's a learning thing, that first came the willing heart and then came the need. So we learn that our giving should not be primarily because of the need. If we're based in faith, we should primarily give because our willing heart compels us to.
One last little story. This is Nicole and Meg. They're part of a children's ministry that's been launched by Bethel Church in Scottsboro, Nova Scotia. Again, paid for through a planned giving fundraising effort in that congregation. They've hired a part-time coordinator to coordinate that ministry. They're 6 years old. They're best friends. They're part of the same school in class, same class in school, part of the same Sunday school class. They were also share a birthday. And so they decided to have a joint birthday party at their local pool. They were also, through their Sunday school, raising money, canned goods, to go to the local food bank. The goal was 200 pounds. They were behind on that for the Sunday school. So they had the idea that instead of asking their friends to bring presents, they would bring canned goods to the food bank. And so they collected all that, 174 pounds of food that they put in their wagons. And then on the next Sunday morning, they wheeled their wagons with their food down the aisle for the offering, while the whole congregation broke into applause. Isn't that a great story? And then Laura Scully, the minister, blesses their gifts as they're smiling there. Afterwards, one says to the other, "That was the best birthday party ever." No, but isn't that a wonderful story? They're learning the joy of giving. They're living forward, as Callahan would say, to their best selves. And the whole congregation can celebrate.